Thank you very much. And why should we have to explain President Trump? I think most conservatives and most reasonable Americans have a sense of his style and his kind of off the cuff, at times unsettling style of communicating. But the way the left portrays it, we need to at times we need to come in and point a few things out. Now, President Trump is now involved in a controversy from the left perspective in that he stated at a public event that he felt that some Democrats at the State of the Union address were quote treasonous. Now he said it in response to someone in the audience who said it, and he goes, "Yeah, I guess so. I guess you could say they're treasonous." After he had said that they were un-American, and the left is taking this to say, "Look, this is," they feed it into their narrative that somehow President Trump is authoritarian, which is the exact opposite is the truth. And they say, you see, he's going to call people criminals, and he wants to, treason is a crime that could lead to execution in the Constitution. I mean, this is like a strong man, kind of strong armed statement. When in fact he said it half in jest, and he said it as kind of an offhanded remark in response to someone in the audience. Now, what I think that everything that Trump says is going to be fed into that paradigm that he's authoritarian, that he has something against minorities, and no matter what he does or says, that's going to be the narrative. But the fact is that he was commenting on the behavior of some of the Democrats at the State of the Union address, which was really pretty ugly. You had Nancy Pelosi there, scowling and looking really, really like she was about to erupt, and Steny Hoyer next to her. And it's been reported by many, and I didn't notice it. I did watch the speech, but it's been reported that she was looking around at other Democrats to make sure that nobody applauded and nobody stood up. And almost like she was there taking names like some kind of a commissar. And, this applauding during such things as the story of the parents of Otto Warmbier, which is absolutely heartbreaking story, and they stood up and were acknowledged and honored by the president, and the father was crying, and it was just extremely painful and heartbreaking to watch this and to think about the utter viciousness and cruelty of North Korea. And yet the Democrats refused to acknowledge it. They refused to applaud. Same thing with the two couples, both of whom happened to be black, from Long Island, whose two daughters were murdered in cold blood as they walked to their high school by MI5 gang members. They were there, weeping, and they were being acknowledged. They were very moved by the fact that the President of the United States was acknowledging them. And that, by the way, is a tradition in State of the Union addresses. And yet the Democrats couldn't bring themselves to even acknowledge them or applaud them. What a disgrace. And the third point I'll make is that when President Trump mentioned that unemployment in the black community is at an all-time low and is the lowest since records have been kept, probably the lowest ever, the Black Congressional Black Caucus, they sat there just looking stone faced, and they refused to acknowledge or applaud a basic fact. I mean, something that would be good for their community. What does that say about their leadership of the black community? I mean, where are their loyalties, anyways? Are their loyalties with actually helping black people, or are their loyalties with a Democratic Party that demands full, fealty, and you have to bow down? And if Nancy Pelosi sees you look this way or look that way, you'll end up being drummed out and put in the backbench and being penalized. Seems to me to be the latter is the case. So that's what President Trump was responding to. I personally think that to say it's treasonous is much too overboard. It's really not, it's language that's beyond. And he did say it in jest, but the spirit of it is right. And I think when President Trump communicates, he doesn't use the old, kind of official language where everything is couched and everything is, they do a survey to find out what he should say about this and that. He does speak from the cuff. He's a businessman. It's got him in trouble, But I think that Americans need to understand that that's his style. In fact, his off the cuff comments have led to accusations that he's obstructed justice when it couldn't be further from the truth. I'll give a simple example. When he had his infamous meeting with FBI Director James Comey, and he said to Comey that he would like him to speed up the investigation of General Flynn, because he felt that Flynn is innocent, and because, or even if Flynn had done some kind of misdemeanor, it really was a drag, not just on him personally, and it was hurtful toward a good man, but it also was a drag on the administration to have this cloud over it. And could they kind of move the thing along? Can they get this thing done? And furthermore, could you come out with a statement acknowledging that I am not under investigation, which is a perfectly reasonable thing for any president to ask for? Well, unfortunately, President Trump didn't realize that he was sitting across an arch enemy, somebody who's out to get him, somebody that now we know from the release of the FISA requests was actually involved in an event to try to spy on him using this phony dossier as an excuse, which, of course, if that does prove to be true, would be criminal. Um, and that this was part of I would call it, frankly, a conspiracy to undermine Trump, to get Trump. So he wasn't talking to the right person. He wasn't talking to a friendly source. And then obviously what happened is that Comey, sure enough, went out after he was fired and he got revenge by leaking classified information to a reporter or to a professor who then leaked it to the New York Times. And then he made the accusation that because Trump had asked that this investigation be moved along, that constitutes obstruction of justice, that he actually was trying to suppress, if not stop, the investigation, which, of course, on the surface of it is untrue. But anyone who looks at how President Trump communicates knows that it's untrue. He's talking like a businessman. That's how he's used to talking to people. So I think that we need to understand, just to wrap things up here, how President Trump communicates. He doesn't communicate in the old fashioned diplomatic language of double talk and sophistries, which I think is good. He communicates like a businessman. He talks to people, asks people to do things to get things done. And that is, once we understand that, once we realize, and I think most people do, then we can understand President Trump's motivations and that he is not a politician or a professional prevaricator, I guess you'd say, in that he does not understand the language of misinformation and lies, like most, if not all, other politicians that I can think of have understood and have practiced. So those are my thoughts for today. I want to thank you for watching, everybody, and have a nice day.